Hello, I will present Understanding and Applying the Evidence Base for Strategic School Actions for the school action of redesigning a school. Texas strategic school actions are bold strategies that districts can take in order to meet the unique needs of students in their communities. The four strategic school actions are create a new school, redesign a school, restart a struggling school, or reassigning students to a higher performing school. For the remainder of this video, I will provide a summary of the research related to redesigning a school. Redesigning a school first involves bringing on a new entrepreneurial school leader. The school leader is supported to implement a new whole school reform model aligned with the Effective Schools framework. The redesigned school may address issues such as social emotional learning and can incorporate high-dosage tutoring and extended learning time. The research results shared in this video do indicate that school restructuring and redesign can have positive connections to increase school performance. Multiple school improvement policies occur during school redesign models, such as staff replacement changes, changes in professional development efforts, and governance policies. More research is needed to fully understand the impacts of school redesigns on school outcomes. One research summary article and two quasi-experimental studies discuss school reform models, including redesigning schools to improve student achievement outcomes. Clute, Chirasaro, and Apthrop 2016 is a research summary article of 25 studies related to state interventions occurring at low-performing schools. The studies included were mostly descriptive, and the state interventions that were discussed were schools that had a turnaround partner intervention, schools that were involved in improvement planning, school redesign reform models, or closure reassignment reform models. The article included 25 articles, 10 which were located in California, and the majority of the studies were about schools with a turnaround partner. The authors described the components that led to school improvements. Turnaround partner interventions included a technical assistance provider that worked with the school to identify the school's needs, develop a school improvement plan, and provide technical assistance in implementing the plan. Other components that led to school improvement included strong leadership with the use of funding and action plans tied to the school's vision for improvement. The use of formative assessment data to guide instruction, as well as cultivating positive school culture characterized by trust and increased expectations from students. The Del La Torre et al. Article discussed 5 distinct reform models that were implemented in Chicago public schools. The schools had been identified as chronically low performing by the district. The 5 distinct reform models that were implemented were reconstitution of the schools, school closure and restarts. Some schools implemented the School Turnaround Specialist Program. Others implemented the Academy for Urban School Leadership, and some implemented the Chicago Public Schools Office of School Improvement Model. Again, the population was 36 intervention campuses, and the majority of the schools were predominantly African American. The study was quasi-experimental, and after 2 to 4 years, elementary schools that implemented reforms showed higher math and reading achievement gains compared to non-reform schools. This table displays the 4 school policy changes that were required as a part of the reform models. Some schools were required to replace their staff. Some had leadership replacement requirements. Some were required to replace their governance, and others had change in their attendance rules. For school closures and restarts, where new schools were created, they were required to change all 4 policies. This article, the Del La Torre et al. Article, talking about the 5 school improvement models, does give a good description of what each of these models entail, as well as the relationship to student outcomes. This article by Gill, Zimmer, Chrisman, and Blanc discusses schools taken over by the state and assigned to a reform model. The reform models included private management, school restructuring, or state takeover. The population that was included in this study was 45 low-performing schools in Philadelphia. The authors reported that over a 4-year period after the state takeover, 5th graders and 8th graders had significant gains in math and English proficiency, regardless of intervention type. District-managed restructured schools showed large achievements in mathematics in the first 3 years of implementation. Students in restructured schools with intensive professional development and district oversight performed better in math for 4 years and in reading for 1 year following the school's restructuring. 2 quasi-experimental studies and 1 case study examined the effects of whole school reform models such as school redesign on school outcomes. Vanilla ND 2017 summarizes a quasi-experimental study that was done regarding the reforms that were implemented in Kentucky schools. Kentucky's focus schools included reforms such as a comprehensive school planning process with instructional reforms, professional development, and extended learning times. The study included 920 focus schools that were identified as low performing based on student achievement. The majority of the campus were predominantly white, rural, and had a high percentage of students on free and reduced lunch. The authors reported that adopting school reforms was associated with improvements in school performance such that students had higher math achievement by 17% and reading achievement by 9%. Flowers et al. 2017 is a quasi-experimental study that examines implementing the School That Works program as a part of a whole school reform model. The School That Works program included the development of processes for continuous improvement, enhanced academic excellence, enhanced social justice, and multi-layer support to meet student needs. The population was 5,600 students from 17 program and 17 comparison schools. The majority of the students were Hispanic, followed by African American, and 25% of the students were classified as limited English proficiency. The schools implementing the School That Works program at high levels had higher levels of teacher collaboration and best middle school instructional practices. Students at high implementing schools showed improvement in math achievement. This slide provides additional information about the School That Works components that were incorporated in the treatment schools as a part of the study. Some of the components included multi-layered system of support that included providing tools and data for assessment, goal setting, action planning, and monitoring. The treatment schools were also given an instructional coach and a principal mentor. There were networking opportunities for the teachers at the state and national levels, and the schools implemented an early warning indicator system. The treatment schools also received focused professional development to help them build learning communities and address the needs of students at risk. Elijam et al. 2010 is a retrospective case study of 11 campuses that received federal grants to implement the Comprehensive School Reform Model. The Comprehensive School Reform Model included leadership and staffing changes, addressing school climate such as discipline issues and increasing parent involvement, and incorporating new instructional strategies. For this particular study, the authors wanted to examine quick and dramatic results as well as those schools that had slow and steady school improvement. Those were the criteria that led to the 11 campuses being included in these case studies. There were also comparison schools that had no improvement during the same time that were included in the study. The 11 campuses and schools had a variety of school populations. However, all of the schools were in the bottom 50% of performance based on their 1999-2000 scores. The results showed that the rapid improvement and slow and steady schools consistently addressed factors long identified in school reform research as contributions to improving student outcomes. The schools reported adopting and implementing new leadership styles, practices that improved school climate, new instructional strategies, and strategies to secure external support. In this case study, schools were included if they showed rapid improvements in student outcomes in their first 2 years, or if they demonstrated slow but steady improvements in their first 3 to 5 years. The authors shared that these campuses with student performance growth consistently implemented some of the following components of the reform model. One such component was new leadership styles. More teachers were involved in leadership roles with shared responsibility and enhanced collaboration. Another practice that was increased was improving school climate. Schools incorporated clear rules and consequences for misbehavior, as well as set of programs for good behavior and academic achievement. Schools also communicated higher learning and achievement expectations to parents, students, and teachers, as well as beginning to involve parents in school governance. Another component of the reform model that was included was new instructional strategies. These strategies included aligning curriculum to standards, adopting new curriculum, increasing learning time, and the use of data on student achievement to inform instruction. One case study and one quasi-experimental study discussed the outcome results of schools with SIG funds. The LaFlaque et al. 2016 article was actually a summary of case studies that included 25 schools that received federal SIG funds from the school years of 2010-11 to 2012-13. The schools that received the SIG funds were actually required to implement one of 4 school improvement grant models. Those 4 models were the transformation model or the turnaround model. Schools could select to close a school and reassign students to a higher performing school, or the restart model. This study shows that teachers reported that their school had changed in positive ways after 3 years of SIG promoted practices, such as leadership changes and increased professional development. Dragasat et al. 2017 summarizes a research study of over 400 schools with 270 of those that received school improvement grant funds. SIG-funded schools were required to implement improvement models such as transformation model, the turnaround model, reassignment and closure, or school restarts. This article provides a good description of these intervention models. It is a quasi-experimental design study, and the authors reported that the implementation of SIG models did not have significant impacts on math or reading test scores, high school graduation, or college enrollment rates. Redesigning schools can have positive connections to increased achievement when reform practices are incorporated. Such changes as leadership and staff changes, changes to school climate policies, as well as an increased focus on data to drive instruction. To understand the specific aspects of redesigning schools that lead to improvements in student achievement, more rigorous research is needed. Here are the references for all of the research articles discussed in this video. Here is the continuation of the list of references of the articles discussed in this video. If you have any questions about the material discussed in this video, please contact me, Kathy Terry. Thank you.